My name is Nancy, and I'm 23 years old. I recently moved to a different city because of my job. It was hard for me to find a job, but as soon as I found one, it was away from my hometown. So I just decided to move there. The problem was that all the apartments close to my new workplace were very expensive, and there was no way that I could afford those. I didn't even have a car, so I wanted the apartment to be close. I had a friend there. She told me about an apartment. The apartment was only a 15-minute walk from my workplace, and perfect for me. She was about to tell me the history of that apartment, but I didn't bother to hear, as the apartment was perfect for me. So, without even having to look at it, I told her to get it for me. When I went there, it was a very old apartment. The apartments around it were quite fancy, but this one was never refurbished. Well, I didn't have any choice, so I accepted it the way it is. It was the only one I could afford around here. I slept early that night as I had to work in the morning. It was pretty much a normal night, other than the fact that I had been hearing noises from inside the walls. I decided that I'll call the animal control as it's an old house, and there were probably mice in the walls. I didn't sleep that comfortably, but it was fine. It'll take time for me to adjust here. I got ready and had my breakfast. I left for work, and I was very nervous about how the people will be there and all, but when I got there, everyone greeted me very nicely, and every single one of the employees there was very kind. I had a meeting with the boss later, and it turned out that he was a very nice and friendly person as well. In general, I was very happy at my new workplace. He even invited me to dinner at his place tomorrow night, and told me that his wife would love to meet me. I accepted the offer. I got home. I called the animal control, and they told me that they'll come tomorrow. So I had to spend another night like this. While sleeping, I started to feel very hot, and it turned out the suitcase in which I had my clothes was on fire. I quickly ran to the washroom, filled a bucket with water, and threw it on my suitcase. I didn't find any cause of fire, and all of a sudden, someone pushed me from behind, and I fell down, hitting my head on the ground. Luckily, I was still conscious. I turned around, and there was no one there. I got up and lighted my bed again. My bed started to shake, first slowly, and then very violently. I started screaming, and a screaming woman in a white dress, pale skin, her mouth full of blood, and her dress was full of bloodstains entered my room. I screamed out louder, and she started screaming louder and was running towards me when the ground broke and she fell down. I ran out of my room, and there was a tall red figure with claws and horns. It was standing in front of me, and it screamed out loud. And then I heard a child cry in my room, and then a loud, "Shut up!" in a woman's voice, and the sound of a slap. All the lights went out, and I couldn't see a thing. I kept screaming and running. I hit a table and fell down. The lights turned on, and there was no one there. I thought to myself if it was real or just in my head. I was double-minded that I should run or go to sleep. I went to my room, and there was that woman sitting on my bed again. I gasped and slowly started backing out, but she had seen me. She screamed and got up from the bed, and then the light went out again. I was screaming with all my energy, and luckily, I had seen the main door. I got out and kept running until I reached near some buildings. The next day, I looked into the history of the apartment, and it turned out that it was refurbished multiple times. But the next day, it would just turn back old again, and whoever moves in it dies. And if someone is very lucky, they are able to run out of there. That apartment was haunted of some evil spirits, and wouldn't let anyone stay there. I was about 18 when my friends invited me over for my first sleepover in ages. The last time I had a sleepover was before I moved to another town with old friends I never got to see again. So, I was pretty excited for it. That is, until I arrived at my friend's house and saw what they had in mind. The house we were sleeping over in belonged to a friend of a friend who I'd never really hung out with before. I didn't know that she was a horror buff, with a bedroom full of death metal posters and creepy occult stuff that I had never seen outside of horror movies. I was a bit hesitant of her at first, but she turned out to be a pretty chill girl, despite the overwhelming goth aesthetic. I played a few rounds of Smash Bros with her and 2 other mutual friends who were also sleeping over. After that, we watched a bunch of horror movies from his extensive Blu-ray collection. I'm not much of a horror movie girl myself, but I went along with it, since everyone else was. It was pretty funny to see some of my usually tough friends freak out at the movie too, even if I was freaking out alongside them too. When the last movie finished, the goth friend suggested that we do something, in his own words, more interesting. I asked what he meant, and a grin spread across his face. She lifted her mattress and pulled out an honest-to-God Ouija board. One of my friends asked her why on earth he had a Ouija board under her bed, and she told us that her parents typically didn't care about what he did, so long as she wasn't breaking the law. But she still felt like a full-blown portal to the spiritual world was kind of pushing it. There was a mischievous glint in her eyes when she said that we should give it a try, now that it was almost midnight, which was apparently a time where the veil between our world and the spiritual world was thinnest, alongside 3:33 a.m. I wasn't too keen on the idea myself. It's not that I actually believed in that kind of stuff, more like I didn't want to risk messing with it on the off chance that it's actually real. But all my other friends seemed to be open to the idea, so I gave in to peer pressure and played along. Looking back, I could tell that none of them, aside from the goth friend, wanted to do it either, but we're all ironically too scared of appearing scared to turn it down. We gathered around the Ouija board with the goth friend sitting right above the board. We each placed a single finger on the planchette. Almost immediately, the planchette started moving, though whether it was actually a spirit or one of my friends goofing around, I couldn't tell. We asked a bunch of questions, or rather, our goth friend did, while the rest of us were played along while too scared to ask any questions of our own. She asked if there was anyone in the room with us, and the planchette moved to yes. Then she asked if the spirit meant us any harm, to which it answered with no. I could tell that the tension in the room lessened significantly at that answer. If we were going to be haunted by a spirit, it might as well be a friendly one. I stayed cautious though. Living people lied all the time, and I didn't trust a dead one much either. This went on for a while. We can never get any complex answers from it. Most of the time, it'd move around the board so much that whatever came out was a garbled mess of letters that couldn't even count as a word salad. But simple yes or no answers were always answered quickly. At this point, I was suspecting that someone in the group was messing with us. It could only manipulate the planchette without being noticed enough to put it to yes or no. Just as we were about to say goodbye, an hour late, the planchette moved on its own and slid out from all our fingers. We began freaking out, but the goth friend simply stared at the planchette. I followed her gaze and realized that the planchette wasn't over any particular letter, not even a yes or no. I couldn't tell what it was trying to say. Was it just trying to scare us? Then, I looked to where in the room the planchette was, pointing with its heart-shaped tip. My blood ran cold when I saw that it was pointing at the window. And outside on the streets was a dark figure in a hoodie, standing in the middle of the road, holding a huge knife in his hand. The goth friend noticed as well, and quickly called the police. They arrived in minutes, and the man was arrested. They found pictures of the house on his phone, alongside pictures of the goth friend walking to school. He'd been stalking her for the past month at least, and that night was the night he'd planned to strike and do God knows what with her. If it wasn't for the spirit with us that night, we might have all become spirits ourselves.
There's someone in the house. I accepted a 3-day job house-sitting for a rich couple while they went vacationing somewhere. It's a cushy job for sure. I get to stay in this mansion and take all sorts of cool pics for my social media and get paid for it. The area was everything you'd expect and more, on top of a hill with dense forest at the back and a lake at the side. The mansion itself was also quite jaw-dropping. It was very gothic-looking, with towers on either side and tall glass windows decorated with heavily draped curtains. I half expected to find a stone gargoyle at the balcony of the second floor, but I wasn't disappointed anyway. There were large brass knockers on the front door. The rich couple had already left that morning, so the person who opened the door for me was an old, angry-looking man. "Hello, I'm Clara. I was told by the Bowers to come here at 5? I greeted the man. "You're late," he growled at me. "Here are the keys, I'm out of here." And without delay, the man walked past me down the stairs. I stood there silently, gawking at his abrupt departure, but decided that maybe the man probably had plans for the evening that my late arrival delayed. I took the keys that the man gave me and went inside. Mrs. Bauer had given me a set of rules before I arrived. I could have anything in the kitchen, I could stay in any room except the master bedroom, I could take pictures if I wanted to, but there was no internet connection and the cell service was bad at times, and I was supposed to lock the doors before 8 p.m. I wondered if they wouldn't mind me bringing my friends over. After all, they didn't mention no guests in the letter. Then again, this place was so far away from the main road that my friends would probably get lost before they even arrived. Even the taxi driver wasn't familiar with the address I gave him. I explored the first floor and made a mental note of each room. To my disappointment, there were no suits of armor. The kitchen was massive, and there was even a beautiful chocolate cake that I decided I would eat later that night. I climbed up the stairs to explore the second floor and found what seemed to be the master bedroom. There were 4 large guest rooms further in, and I chose to put my bag in the room overlooking the lake. When I was done with exploring the house, I realized that 2 hours had passed. I decided to take a long bubble bath before going down to eat the chocolate cake. When I went back down to the first floor, I saw that it had started to rain. The raindrops were splattering on the tall glass windows, and I took a snapshot of it. This will look cool on my Insta. Too bad there's no Wi-Fi. As I made my way into the kitchen, I saw that there was mud on the carpet. As I drew nearer, I saw that they were in fact muddy footprints. Intrigued, I followed them into a hallway. The footprints ended in a pile of glass shards in front of one of the tall windows. I picked up one of the glass shards from the carpet, my heart pounding. Did somebody break in? I touched the muddy footprint closest to me. It was still wet. Somebody was in the house. A bang suddenly sounded from the second floor, making my heart jump. I was rooted to the spot. I didn't know what to do. There was silence for a few seconds, then another loud bang, and then a third bang. I realized what was happening. The intruder was opening the doors in the second floor. They were looking for me. In a panic, I hurriedly ran to the foyer, out into the garden, making my way into the front gate. The rain was heavy. In no time, I was completely soaked. I reached the gate and took the keys from my pocket. I tried inserting each one, praying to heaven that one of them would unlock it. As a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky, I realized that none of the keys Mr. Carl handed to me opened the gate. The rain was pounding on my neck, beating hard and completely soaking me. I couldn't run to the forest at the back. I had no flashlight with me. I would need to go back to the mansion and find someplace to hide. I ran back into the front door and tiptoed into the foyer. I didn't know where the intruder was. All I knew was that I had to hide. The rain was loud enough to mask my footsteps. I just hoped that I wouldn't run into him on my way up. All the doors in the second floor were forcefully opened. I made my way to the guest room where I put my bag down, only to see a figure sitting on the bed, illuminated by another flash of lightning. It looked like a man. His back was to me, so he didn't see me, and he seemed to be going through the things in my bag. I slowly backed away and decided to hide in the master bedroom. Where do I go? Under the bed? I'd be found at once. In the walk-in closet? There was a giant chest by the window, but that was like a claustrophobic prison. I headed to the bathroom and locked myself inside. Crouching low in the bathtub, I took my cell phone from my pocket and dialed 911. The sudden banging on the bathroom door sent me to overdrive. How did he know I was in here? I closed my eyes and cursed the poor cell service of all times. From behind me, there was another banging at the window. Was there more of them? And now I was cornered. Alone, afraid, locked in the bathroom, cowering in the tub. Please, 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 please. I whimpered at my phone as the banging grew even louder than the rain. 911, what's your emergency? I was 12 years old and used to live in Boston, Massachusetts. I had a brother who was 14 years old named George. We had nothing in common. I usually preferred indoor activities such as playing Xbox most of the day, while George used to love outdoor sports. He used to play baseball a lot. Due to this reason, we didn't really used to hang out together that much other than family events. It was mid of September, and my brother had his first actual game. 1 week earlier from the game, he used to practice all the time. He would even drag me out of the house so that I can help him prepare for his game. I have no idea what he used to like about this boring game. That whole week was torture for me. Finally, it was Saturday, and also game night. My whole family was going to the game, and they were taking me with them. It was really hard to convince them to let me stay at home. When I first asked them, my dad didn't agree at all, but after convincing them for a couple of minutes, he finally agreed. They gave me the neighbor's phone number as an emergency contact just in case. Well, I didn't really need it and was relieved as soon as they left the house. I started playing Xbox, and when it was around 9 p.m., I closed it and went to my room to read a book. After some time, I heard a doorbell. I ignored it because no one would come without calling at this time. I heard it again, I ignored it. Then again, and this time, someone was continuously ringing it. There were different scenarios running in my mind. What if there is someone to rob our house? What if there's a killer? Maybe someone needs help, or maybe some neighbor came to visit. All the lights of the house were on, so it was obvious that there was someone inside. After ringing for about 5 minutes, the doorbell stopped, and I was relieved. I was still a bit scared, but had started to read the book again. After a while, someone started to bang on the main door violently, and at the same time, I started to hear my dog bark in the backyard. My heart was racing, and at this point, I thought that I have to do something, but I was so scared that I couldn't move a muscle of my body. The banging on the door didn't stop, and I got out of bed, shaking. I was going out slowly from my room, walking against the wall. When I had reached the staircase, the main door was just beside the other end of the staircase. From up here, I could see the door. I couldn't see anyone from up here, so I had to go down. I was taking each step very slowly and quietly, trying my best for him to not see me. When I made my way down the stairs, I peeked out of the window beside the door. It was a creepy-looking man with shoulder-length hair, creepy smile, and bags under his eyes. He was totally unknown to me, and I have never seen or met him before. I was panicking and slowly backed up a bit and went towards the living room. I heard the man say, "I see you, kid. Open the door." As soon as I heard this, I got in a great shock. After some time, I heard footsteps going away from the house, so I quickly checked the locks of the main door. It was locked, so I went to the back door. It was unlocked. My dog was there barking and wanting to come inside, so I let him in and quickly locked the door. As soon as I locked the door, my dog made a sound as if he was scared. I turned around and I saw that man staring from the window next to the main door and was ringing the doorbell. I thought of calling the neighbor, and the phone was in the kitchen. He was staring at me and saying, "Open the door, kid," but I didn't listen to him. My dog was barking at him, and I went to the kitchen. I unplugged the phone and took it straight upstairs. My dog came with me. I went straight to my parents' room, as that was the only room where I could plug the phone and had a lock. I quickly locked the door and called my neighbor. No one picked up. I tried again, but no one answered. I could see him from the window in my parents' room. He got away from the main door and took a turn around the house, and then left. I kept looking through the window until my parents got back, and as soon as they came, I rushed downstairs and told them everything. No one knows what that man had come to do, and I never saw him again. It turned out that our neighbor's car wasn't there, so that means they were also out somewhere. Since that incident, I never stayed home alone again.